Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. Boy, do I love being the bearer of bad news for all the blue anon leftoids out there trying to tear this world apart. It seems as though your evil plans have failed once again. Folks, you hear that sound? Listen real carefully. That's the sound of moving goalposts, because that's exactly what's about to happen. It started off with Donald Trump is done. 4 indictments to take him down. Pick your poison, he's done from all angles. It went from that to, maybe some of the cases are a little bit weak, but at least we still have the fake elector scheme case. Now that one's been pushed post-2025, they moved the goalpost to, we have a March 4th trial date on Jack Smith's DC January 6th case. Trump can't avoid that one. Well, not so sure about that one, as it seems Jack Smith's March 4th trial date is not exactly looking like a no-go, as the judge has just paused the trial due to the ongoing appeal. Yep, you can definitely hear it. Goalposts moving, and 20-year-old white women reaching for their cell phones to film a TikTok. Yeah, I can hear them saying it. I'm literally shaking right now. It's getting good. Let me show you guys what's going on. Let's roll the tape. All right, folks, take a look at the headline right over here from the Conservative Brief. Judge in Trump January 6 trial pauses case amid appeal to toss it out. The federal judge presiding over former President Donald Trump's election interference trial, stemming from incidents that occurred on January 6, 2021, has paused the case while an appeal to have it tossed out completely runs its course. Judge Tanya Chutkan issued her ruling late Wednesday, which stated in part that it automatically stays any further proceedings that would move this case towards trial or impose additional burdens of litigation on defendant. The Hill reported, Trump last week appealed an order from Chutkan that rejected his motion to dismiss the January 6 case, likewise asking that she halt activity in the case while his appeal proceeds. The move comes as Trump has argued that the courts should dismiss the case both on the concept of presidential immunity as well as on constitutional grounds, including the First Amendment. If jurisdiction is returned to this court, it will, consistent with its duty to ensure both a speedy trial and fairness for all parties, consider at that time whether to retain or continue the dates of any still future deadlines and proceedings, including the trial schedule for March 4th, 2024, wrote Judge Chutkan in her order. The appeal by Trump could disrupt the date the trial is currently scheduled to begin, which is March 4th, the day before Super Tuesday primaries. Federal prosecutors have argued that Trump is attempting to use whatever means possible to upend the trial date with the hope of pushing it beyond the November 2024 election, which is his legal right to do, absolutely, and he should. But at the same time, special counsel Jack Smith followed Trump's appeal to the DC Circuit Court of Appeals with his own filing to the U.S. Supreme Court earlier this week, which the justices agreed to hear. I've briefly mentioned this before, although not exactly confidently, considering I'm not exactly a lawyer, but I've been questioning that March 4th trial date since day one, saying multiple times, I don't see how that's going to happen. There's no way that Trump doesn't have legal maneuvers that allow him to delay this case. I've seen cases half as complicated take multiple years to come to trial. I mean, for Pete's sakes, look how long it took Juicy Smollett to go to trial. But somehow they're going to wrap up this entire thing attempting to prosecute a former president of the United States in less than 12 months? It made no sense to begin with. And obviously, Donald Trump has a legal right to ask for more documents, to ask for more time to go over all the documents, to appeal in every viable court. And just like anybody else, just like any other private citizen, Trump has the right to be treated fairly by the legal system. And Judge Chutkan essentially, to a certain extent, just confirmed this here, telling Jack Smith very directly in her decision that the trial is on pause until Trump's appeal has gone through the Supreme Court. And now here's where the story gets a little bit interesting. I can't exactly imagine a world where Jack Smith's DC Trump case is a top priority for the Supreme Court, and so you'd expect it to kind of take some time to make it through that system. But Jack Smith ain't having none of that. This is where he shows his bias. He shows how much of a goon he really is. On Tuesday, lawyers for Trump leveled charges of election interference at Smith after he filed the motion with the Supreme Court. Smith filed a motion on Monday seeking a quick resolution from the nation's highest court, asking justices to determine whether Trump has immunity from being prosecuted. Trump's 2024 re-election campaign issued a strongly worded statement criticizing Smith and President Joe Biden, who is also running for a second term, for their efforts to stick with with a March 4th trial date in the case, which is one day before Super Tuesday primaries. The High Court agreed to promptly review Smith's petition, allowing Trump until December 20th to submit a response. And so Jack Smith is abusing his power as a special counsel to expedite the process at the Supreme Court. He's applying pressure to make sure that not only his trial date is expedited, or the case itself, but also that this appeal is expedited. Every process of this has to be expedited, according to Jack Smith, because, quote, it's in the public's interest that this case be expedited. You know, Jack Smith's words make no sense there anyways. It's in the public's interest ahead of this election that this trial be conducted swiftly. Yeah, no. You know what's in the public's interest? That this case is handled appropriately and fairly. And most importantly, that the system gets it right. Not that the system rams it through and that you get your conviction and you become a superstar, but that the system exercises caution and attention to detail and provides the defense with the ability to defend itself and gather all relevant information. You know, there's something called history. As Trump's lawyer, Christina Bobb, accurately pointed out when she told Newsmax, it's a playbook that Jack Smith has done before. He's trying to do the same thing to Donald Trump that he did to Bob McDonnell in Virginia. The appeal must go as quickly as possible so Jack Smith can keep to the timeline to be able to do exactly what he did to Bob McDonnell. Smith filed an emergency appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court, while Trump's lawyers filed one with the Appeals Court for the District of Columbia in an attempt to determine if he is immune from prosecution because the alleged actions took place while he was still president. The nation's highest court has agreed to hear Smith's motion. Bob, meanwhile, was referring to Smith's previous oversight of the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Unit, which secured a bribery and extortion conviction against former Virginia Republican Governor Bob McDonnell in a gift case. However, the Supreme Court later overturned the conviction with an 8-0 decision back in 2016. He rammed through a conviction, and it got overturned 8-0 on appeal. He was exonerated, but in the meantime, the election took place and interfered with that exactly. That's what he's trying to do. And so Jack Smith has done this before. Ahead of an election, indicting and trying Virginia Republican Governor Bob McDonnell, who later had his conviction completely overturned in an 8-0 decision. What are the repercussions of that in the realm of presidential general elections? I mean, could you imagine, hypothetically, Jack Smith sends Donald Trump to prison ahead of the election, then support for Trump, which is now skyrocketing and sky high, starts dropping down, he ends up losing the election, Joe Biden is then elected, then Donald Trump gets exonerated after a decision by the Supreme Court. There is no interest in fast-tracking this trial. There is only an interest in getting it right. But Jack Smith, of course, is only focused on his time in history. He's attempting to use the legal system to bulldoze Donald Trump, but thankfully there's at least some checks and balances. And you know that they're working when Jack Smith is throwing a little tantrum, trying to get his pile of papers to the top of the stack. Well, boo-hoo, he can cry all he wants. It's not going to be as easy as he probably initially expected. You know, I'm trying very hard not to make any predictions in this video because most of it is up in the air. But what it's actually looking like, funnily enough, is that probably the only case that's actually going to make it past the finish line ahead of 2024 is going to be Letitia James's little civil lawsuit case. That's probably going to be the leftist slam dunk. But probably a little bit too late considering this slam dunk is really only going to be usable during Donald Trump's second term as president of the United States. Anyway, so there you have it. Jack Smith's March 4th trial date, not exactly looking so solid anymore. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.